Previously, in X-Men, the X-Men are fighting Proteus, the son of Moira McTaggart. He has reality-altering powers. He is near invulnerable, it seems, except for one thing: metal. Is that coincidence, or is that a built-in plot device for Wolverine, perhaps, to save the day? We shall see.
Tell you one thing. It's a good thing no X-Men have metal powers.
Good thing no X-Men have metal powers. We are well into the Chris Claremont, John Byrne era of X-Men. The team has come together. They've been through so much, but they've been facing a superpowered serial killer in Scotland. And if there are three words that terrify me to my core, it's superpower serial killer in Scotland.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say.
Today we are reading X-Men 128. There's your cover. This is episode 37 of our ongoing, never-ending Tuesday night live stream, which is the greatest ongoing, never-ending X-Men live stream on a Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is Previously in X-Men. We are a group of 7 comics. I am Jason Lapidus.
I am Chris Sanagan.
And we are hot and bothered tonight. Coming at you live from Richmond Hill, Ontario. And, of course, my good friend here is in Guelph, Ontario. And it is a little warm in my house. And I am 2 or maybe 3 glasses in.
So am I. We didn't talk about that.
Some very peaty scotch. Thanks
nice.
to my very hospitable neighbor who has hosted me for the last few hours. So
we had similar starts to the evening. I mean, I wasn't scotch drinking, but I did split a bottle of wine with my lovely wife, and then at a restaurant downtown, and then came back to the house for cocktails. And now we're doing this, so we're in a good spot all around. Is what I.
Yes, and it's on, dude. It's on. It's happening. I'm very happy to be here. I look forward to this all week long. Getting to read a good comic book with you. And talk about a story that we're engaged in. It's something I'm excited about. I'm just feeling terrible about abandoning my neighbor who he put on a real spread. It was fantastic.
That sounds awesome.
And a really nice, hospitable neighbor. And so I'm going to have to do that again very soon and host him and make up for it. Lapidus and Sanagan. That's where we're at. Like I said, I smell like Smoky Pete at the moment. And I don't mean that as in Smoky, the guy named Pete who's smoky. I mean as in like Petey. As in the...
I feel like Lapidus and Sanagan need to be characters in the Group of 7 universe. They just show up in the odd story here and then. Just sit in the background.
Yeah. Scott, how are you doing out there? I hope you're doing well and you're safe and sound in Stratford. Again, not too far from where Chris is at, but far enough where Chris can't just pop by and knock on the door without a little bit of warning. So you have an appropriate distance from Sanagan.
Smart.
I'm reading it today in Classic X-Men number 34 with this phenomenal cover. I'm going to just solo view this bad boy. Phenomenal cover by Steve Lytle, which really captured my attention as a youngin'. I love Colossus at the center, all the bodies of the X-Men strewn across the ground, and beautiful motion, and he's all torn up and high saturation. It's a good one. I love this cover a lot.
Solid.
Yeah, and I'm also reading it in Essential X-Men Volume 2, which is, if for those who don't know, to speak in, I guess, modern parlance, it's like a higher resolution taken from an earlier step in the printing process. So the black and white is just incredibly crisp, and they store 15 issues or so in each one of these sort of phone book newsprint style things. They're really great for reading. Yeah, it's 25 issues inside of this. This is amazing. Scott says he's good. He's penciling broken socials and stuff while being entertained by 2 drunks. I wonder who these 2 drunks could be. Guys in the neighborhood who are just at.
Well, that sounds like the premise of the Broken Social Scene book.
Yes, I'm very excited about your Broken Social Scene project. Chris and I are both fans of indie rock, Canadian indie rock especially, and we've been known to listen to Broken Social Scene on occasion or two.
On occasion.
Yeah, or 2. So how are you reading this today, Chris?
I'm reading it on what the kids call DVD-ROM. ROM stands for. I don't know. What does ROM stand for? Do we even know anymore?
But this is I have no idea.
Right? Like, okay, right. We don't know, right? Like,
I don't know if I
CD
ever
was
knew.
compact disc. What's wrong?
I don't know. But for those new to the show, because we're now up to 97 subscribers.
97.
Like, it's been a big week. For those who don't know, Chris has been reading the whole series of X-Men since Giant Size #1 on this DVD-ROM, which sounds really antiquated and it's kind of charming in a way. But the
speaking of antiquated,
read-only memory.
Old man Chandler speaks up.
I hope that's true. So the product you have in your hands is a collection of all the X-Men stories up until about 2007-ish.
Yeah,
I think, and it's scans of the original printed comics. So it is not what you'd find if you were to download or subscribe to, let's say, Marvel Unlimited, where you get to see digital versions of the comics. These are, again, scans of the original printed. So they are on that yellowed paper. The newsprint absorbs the ink more than modern paper does. So the colors are less saturated. And all the craftsmen and artisans working on the books at that time would have made their choices to be printed in that fashion. And they were not intending their color choices to be printed on a higher quality paper or to be digital. So the incredibly high saturation of the colors in the digital versions are not accurate to what the people making the product were aiming for.
No. Plus,
so
we get staple.
There are a lot of purists who would not want to read a modern digital version. I think they have their merits and they have their place, as do something like what you're presenting here, which is, like I said, the original scans of the original printed comic. That being said, Chris, if you could get that into the live
that thing, I should put
that extra step, so it's at least I can put it up when
we can talk to. We can talk about it.
There's so much hockey for you and I to talk about on our other show.
So much.
Group of 7 Talks Hockey, which is never been on YouTube.
It's got 1,000 subscribers. Group of 7 Talks.
I want to catch up about how your kids are doing, what they've been up to. I have lots to talk about what I've been up to.
I don't want to catch up with them.
Okay, fair enough. And I have a ton of new action figures that arrived. Including like this very comic book style of Doctor Strange. And I would say I gotta get a fabric cape.
Oh yeah.
I with the amount of life that has been brought to his cloak on the cloak of levitation on in the movies, I can't imagine having a Doctor Strange that is supposed to embody all that the movie and the comic books represent without having a cape that has some flexibility. So I'm going to have to remove this one using probably a heat gun, because it's glued on at the eye there, the amulet there.
Oh, okay.
On, and people make soft goods to go with this exact product. But the soft goods cape will cost as much as the figure.
I'm sure it will.
So, can I show you one more thing?
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Like, honestly, there's a huge bag full of toys here. I mean, box.
It's a bag full of toys.
Look at this beast.
Oh, you have the Rhino? Oh, I saw that one. That's cool.
Dude.
I like that.
Yeah, I've been trying to get a complete Rhino figure for probably 5 years, maybe.
Did they do a Build-A-Fig Rhino?
They did. They did a modern version of the character, so he has like shoulder armor.
Oh yeah, that's not good.
And but I have all the parts but one, and I've been sitting on it for 4 or 5 years.
This cod piece,
and then the piece that's missing is his piece.
The Rhino.
And then this one was available, and I jumped at it.
I love it. That looks great.
Classic.
Look at that.
Yeah,
beautiful.
And then some Star Wars stuff that we'll talk about after. But there's lots to talk about. But X-Men.
It's X-Men.
X-Men, not in the news right now, but I want to talk some context with you.
Do it.
I want to throw some shade at another really famous YouTube show about comics.
Oh, let's do it.
So there's a great YouTube show called Comic Tropes. Do you ever watch that one?
No.
Chris Pierce makes a really great show. I'm a long-time subscriber. I watch it every week. New episodes every 2 weeks-ish. And he deep dives into sort of a one theme, like John Byrne. John Byrne's career, and then he will look at the tropes that John Byrne employs to make comics. Or it could be Claremont, it could be Jim Shooter era, it could be whatever he wants it to be. Interesting stuff, even when it's stuff I don't know about. I'm really happy to learn from him. He presents a nice balanced point of view, or attempts to be balanced, which is admirable always, and is honest and wears his favorites on his sleeve, which is great.
Okay.
Neat guy, has a good social media presence. All that being said, he was talking on his live stream about like Batman and Superman or certain books having a lot of titles at one time. And he was trying to figure out the most that X-Men could possibly have at one time, as being, in the 90s and having, maybe 5 titles or 6. And he was trying to figure it out, how many X titles there were. And my pretend rivalry, which we don't have, is you got to go back to when this is coming out. Okay, we're now at 1989 for Classic X-Men. We're at 1979 for the issue that we're talking about today. So again, that 10-year gap where Claremont and Marvel get to rethink how they frame their seminal run. At this time in 1989, this is how many series are running. Okay, so let me start. Sorry, in 79, when the original one is run, there's one X-Men title.
Yes.
Called X-Men, and then it's modified to Uncanny X-Men.
Yes.
And we've been able to witness that change. 10 years later, here's where they're at. You ready? They've got Uncanny X-Men is their flagship title. They have New Mutants, which is the junior team, right?
Yep.
They have X Factor.
Yes.
Which is the original 5 X-Men on a parallel mission, sometimes intersecting. There is Excalibur.
Oh, yeah. Can't forget them.
I did for a few hours today, which is a British locale or British... how do I phrase that? A team located in Britain, spearheaded by Captain Britain, with Nightcrawler, Phoenix version 2, and Shadowcat, and other characters. And it's Claremont writing as well, and they are on the same kind of pro-mutant mission.
Okay.
There is the Wolverine solo title that starts in 88.
Okay.
Volume 1, written by Claremont.
Which I just read, by the way.
I think you read Wolverine the Limited Series.
That's what I read.
I'm talking about in 88, there's an ongoing...
Didn't read that one.
Wolverine Volume 2, meaning the second time they're using that title.
Right.
Wolverine Volume 2, ongoing series, starts in 88, runs for 100.5 issues. There's also Marvel Comics Presents,
6.
which was... The premise was, we're going to have a bi-weekly comic series featuring a solo X-Man, and then have other...
Which is where Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X comes from, which you just lent me and I read.
Excellent.
And didn't like it. Doesn't matter. Keep going.
You didn't like it? Can't wait to hear about this.
Yeah.
Another time,
my friend.
So that's six ongoing X-Men titles. Yes. And we're not even going to count Alpha Flight, because I'm going to argue that it's a spin-off. It is not X-themed. It crosses over often enough, but they don't have the same mission as sort of the X-Men, and they're not ongoing adventures of X-Men characters. They're X-Men spin-off. Okay. So
X-Force hasn't shown up yet.
X-Force is New Mutants.
Right. It's rebranded as... Right, okay. Yep.
Boom. So 6 ongoing X-Men titles.
Yep.
After 10 years from the point that we're reading now. Right. So the impact of, this Claremont and Byrne and Austin run is so profound that it balloons X-Men to overtaking Spider-Man for the amount of titles Spider-Man has. At the time that we're reading now, like in 1979, he's got Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man. Has it even started yet? Marvel Team Up, Marvel Tales, which is reprints.
And Webb shows up in the
mid-'80s.
Mid-'80s, okay.
So he'll get up to 5 eventually. And then, of course, Marvel Tales will end, Marvel Team Up will end, and he'll have the 3 for a while. Then he gets another 4th that is just called Spider-Man. The adjectiveless Spider-Man. But, we're looking at him going from 4 titles, and X-Men are at 1, and then, X-Men come and get up to 6 titles as well. Okay. So it just... it works. Like they can house all those. They can continue to publish all those titles because the book is just that powerful and popular. And Claremont is at the helm of basically all of it.
That's wild.
Which is pretty neat. So he's a busy guy writing 6 titles a month, kind of. I don't know what you do with your time. Scott says, I loved Excalibur because it had Nightcrawler in it, and Captain Britain was kind of cool. Scott, you are kind of right. Nightcrawler is more than, or sorry, Captain Britain is more than kind of cool. When, depending on the artist, in this case, it was Alan Davis and Paul Neary, Captain Britain was super cool. He looked great. Like his proportions were really good. The way that helmet sat, it wasn't a mask. It was a helmet, that piece, which Kalman Androsovsky had adopted for Captain Canuck in the rebrand of Captain Canuck about a decade ago. So it's a really neat look for that character. He was so huge. And Alan Davis's Nightcrawler was beautiful. I mean, it might even be my favorite Nightcrawler alongside of guys like Byrne and Adams. I really loved it. So because we were reading it the other day, or a couple of weeks back, I'm trying to peel off the stickers to not show price. But I
you came
across this at my local.
Nice.
The second appearance of Captain Britain.
Right.
And Marvel Team Up, and the first appearance of Moida World. So I saw that in the sort of back issue shelf.
That's cool because that obviously is referenced in that Murder World episode part 2. With X-Men. That's cool. I'm going to also Scott, completely agree with you on Excalibur at the time. I'm Arthurian fan of those, and so the tie-ins of that with Excalibur, like as a kid for sure, really drew me in.
Once Alan Davis left the book, and I think maybe it was Marshall Rogers who took over for a couple issues, I stopped reading. I loved Davis's figure work and storytelling as a youngster at 14, 15 years old. And that was what drew me into that series. I never really was able to I never witnessed them make connections between Arthurian legend and the X-Men in a profound enough way to make me feel anything. It felt to me just like an X-Men offshoot with a British flavor.
It was very peppered, right? Like it was peppered with things. Like it was never overt or direct, but with the character of what's Captain Britain's what's her name? The fairy like
her name is Megan.
Megan, thank you. So just that idea of like fairyland. And like that ties itself into a number of those pieces. It also has this, and it's actually I wanted to say something, and I'll bring it up later in our story today. But it's got a swashbuckling feel to it. It's got that kind of what's that?
Those boots that he had.
The boots, and just like it's got a magic. They're kind of a magical realm. I know it's just 80s Britain. I mean, I don't know how magic that could be, but it does lend itself to. And it's kind of like peppered with things that itself to kind of. But you're right. It's not overt or direct, but like I took from it. I was like, that's the thing. Yeah.
It's been like everything retconned several times, and now Captain Britain has Excalibur.
Okay.
And I would have been into that from day one if they had put that, get him draw that sword from the stone, let that be part of like their Department H is not just mutant progressive and super team progressive, but also looking at myth and finding now you're entering into like the Hellboy.
Yes, I was going to say
all that together and him at the front.
Hear that, Marvel? Give us Excalibur.
I would be so happy to
take it in strange new directions.
They for all we know, they've done that like 10 times in the last 20 years, and we don't even know. But to me, that seems like a really great spot for that series. So I wanted it to go there, and it didn't during the 15 issues that I read. But my point was 6 titles, 6 X-Men titles.
That's a lot.
As a result of the comics we are reading today. Boom. All right. Let's throw this thing up here.
What do we got?
This is the cover by Dave Cockrum, as we have seen several times. The cock, as they call him. No. Dave Cockrum, the long time, the cock. This is George Perez. Forgive me. No more cock jokes. I'm sorry.
Three scotches in, this is what happens.
It's very peaty, just very peaty. So this is George Perez alongside Terry Austin.
Okay.
And I don't see the Perez of it all that much because there aren't 80 characters. But, now that you say so, I'm like, okay, that's cool. It's neat because, Perez and Byrne kind of become these rival powerhouse pencilers with competing top-selling books, one being on X-Men, one being on New Teen Titans. And so it's kind of cool to see that Perez is on cover duties once in a while over here at Marvel. The day that Reality went wild. Reality Went Wild is a whole other videotape series where it's just footage of Reality going wild. And Moira has that faux superhero costume that she's been wearing. Her lab suit or her lab technician action suit.
Yeah, I feel like this cover is kind of only okay. I really liked the last one. And this one was kind of just like, I don't know. It feels like the reality warping abilities that we see throughout the book are almost more interestingly defined in the pages as opposed to this.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And we have no idea at what stage in the art process that Perez gets the assignment and whether he gets to see any of Byrne's interiors or gets to discuss. My one criticism of the reality warping is it seems to be very lateral. Like it's the two sides that are warping and of course the ground, which is easy, but I don't feel like it's doing this. I want a little more of front and back, not just buildings going woo wiggly, but maybe
like funhouse mirrors.
Yeah. It's warping on the light side.
And it's clear that Cyclops hates architecture.
He hates architecture?
He just, especially like mid-Victorian Edinburgh century architecture. He's like, no.
Can you imagine if they actually, if Perez had used a shot, like a reference of a street corner in Edinburgh, how much cooler that might be?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah,
the composition, it really works, using the buildings to, as Trevor is saying, the buildings frame where the characters all sit, and there's depth of the field created by having overlapping figures. Even though Banshee's hair is miscolored. And then you get the gray buildings in the background, which, again, like the lack of saturation in their color pushes them backwards. So it all works. It isn't spectacular. Let's put it that way. It isn't that. And this might be a little bit too much, actually. Like that Colossus.
Yeah, that is almost and that what is that? What is the tagline on that one? What is it?
It says, "And one shall save them."
Right. And it's almost overstated given what happens in this book. But hey, whatever. You want to put Colossus on the cover? There you go.
You don't think you should be on the cover?
No, you should. I feel like one shall. It suggests, I think, something other than the actual way things happen.
Okay. Well, it reminds me of like the tag I used for this video,
which was one shall.
No, it was. I've already forgotten.
You know what? It doesn't matter.
I'll look it up on my own phone.
Look it up.
It says Colossus's greatest moment? Question mark? Because if you ask it, it's not a statement. It's like, is this?
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Again, all the yellow on their uniforms just pop like crazy.
Oh yeah.
It's such a nice thread through their uniforms, except for Nightcrawler doesn't have it. I know neither does Polaris, but I don't consider her an X-Man, so it's okay.
No. And we get Banshee in cities, which is kind of fun.
Yes. With Misty's gun.
You got it. No.
All right, let's get that first page going here.
Okay, here we go.
Want to hear something sad?
Sure.
I might even have this and didn't even go look. It's been one of those days, man, where I didn't even go look to see if I own this. Ooh, the action of the tiger.
I think that's, by the way, just from a pure writing and also a just setting tone perspective, the first line is "ever hear a city scream." That's amazing. Then Claremont goes on to describe it, but I don't know. Like that's all you need. like all you ever hear is City Scream, then like that just conjures up so many questions in your mind. What the hell could that possibly be?
And then just compare it now to the cover, like the degree of warping in the
Yeah.
reality here is so much more.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what you're talking about. Like it didn't do as much for me because it's again, I think graphically represented more so and more effectively in the actual.
I mean, just that choice to not use a blue sky. It does so much too, right? I mean, that is not a high saturated green. That is towards a neutral green. But of course, sky would be blue if things are normal. And this is not a normal circumstance. So sky is not going to be blue.
Right.
I think it really
Did
adds.
you just pop away for a minute, by the way?
I thought you did.
Well, okay.
One of us did. So forgiveness to all of us out there who experienced some sort of delay. It happens sometimes. It does. Yeah, we live in a modern, archaic world.
What is this, Friday with Rogers? Come on.
Yeah, no kidding. We need more villains and sweaters and bell bottoms. Yes, this I think is, we see two things at play here. One is that Byrne is already old in that his sense of fashion. Those are the tightest bell bottoms. Oh, yeah. We're getting full full moose knuckle happening there. And he always draws his men in really tight thighed pants. But the other thing I see is that he consistently gives Austin these great texturing assignments with sweaters and fabric.
Well, right.
Yeah, it works.
There's a lot going on in that sweater there. Exactly.
Yeah, and there are a lot of characters, given that they're in Scotland or when they were in Canada, where characters are wearing some kind of fabric. And I find this one has some good effect because, well, as we will see, or as we know so far, I should say, to remind our faithful listeners and followers out there that Proteus, the villain, is Moira McTaggart's son. Mm-hmm. And he is almost like a formless mutant who has to occupy a host body to continue to exist. And he's right now occupying the body of his own father, Moira's husband, but estranged husband. She's been apart from him for basically the entire life of this child that they share that has grown up to become this serial killer. And the other sort of caveat of his power is when he does use a host body, the body decays. And I imagine the more he uses his power, the more the body decays. So he goes from host body to host body, leaving murder victims in his wake, which makes him the serial killer that we call him. Yes. So this sweater is going to see some damage.
This sweater contains the human hair of all his previous victims.
Gross. We're going to see some serious human hair here, though.
Oh,
as things continue. So this scene take place in Edinburgh, Scotland, and this is the day that Proteus came to town. Whew. Also known in the cartoon as Kevin.
As Kevin.
It really ruins it, by the way. I wish Chris you'd go watch that episode of the two-parter, because
I will.
Kevin, it just takes away from all the menace and the horror of this red-eyed maniac.
Yeah, that's a really good. I think it's an apt term, maniac. I think we have seen all sorts of villainy during this run, but this is next level. Like the Proteus storyline arc, just motive alone, lack of anything but just the necessity of containing his life. And like what he leaves in his wake is
right.
It's level up in terms of like darkness, evil. It's a whole other level. Like it's not Magneto on a space rock.
That sounds awesome.
I know, which also is cool. But anyway,
I'm gonna throw a thought out at you.
Hit me up.
Which might give more credit to Chris Claremont and John Byrne than
I don't want to give them. We have a whole show dedicated to them. We shouldn't give them more credit.
Okay. So the foreshadowing of this.
Yeah.
What you've got here is a mutant with not omnipotent powers, but kind of near, reality altering power they could change the world for the better. They are going on a death-filled rampage.
Mm-hmm.
And the X-Men themselves kind of have to stop one of their own, in the broadest sense, being that it's Moira's son. And
Right.
she's determined to make this sacrifice of her own kin.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a mutant who is sort of within the care of the larger X family, who has gone off in the reservation or has gone rogue and needs to be put down as almost like a piece of mercy, like like almost like a mercy killing, but to save other people. But it's something done with a heavy heart.
Mm.
One could say that this is almost like a foreshadowing,
The setup,
a foreshadowing setup of what is to come in future issues. The superhero genre altering landmark tale of the Dark Phoenix. This has some elements that is like a 3-parter, a relation to the characters in the book, all the things I've already said. But of course, it's not literally the same, but there are some interesting elements that clearly the guys have set up the Dark Phoenix saga already. They're setting up Jean to go down her dark path by having a corrupting presence in her life,
mm-hmm.
and having powers that put her on a level, above anyone else on Earth. But there are just some interesting similarities, like a little trial run.
Yeah, probably
or,
right.
like I said, it's almost like it's foreshadowing in a way, but I don't think it was intended that way. Just a serial killer story.
Yeah.
Anyway, do you want to read Moira's open dialogue here?
Okay, here we go. Okay, well, you've been the one drinking scotch, so
we're the one we're doing battling Scotch accents.
Okay, get ready, world, because here it comes. Why are you doing this? These people have done you no harm. For pity's sake, let them be.
They're human, Moira. They must be taught who is master.
And see, this is I wrote that
his decaying mouth presence.
Yeah. He's got a cavity. I wrote down that this is like I don't think we've come across it too much in this run yet, but that idea of kind of, he doesn't say it, but like homo superior, like is a real of the X-Men fighting against those who believes their genetic mutation makes them superior and therefore worthy of ruling humanity, which is just one of the common things that they come up against.
So there's just a quick recap. They fought Proteus twice. They have yet to defeat him.
Mm-hmm.
The wall is coming down, and Cyclops uses his optic blast to protect
because he hates mid-century architecture. Yep.
Holding a baby, and he tells the X-Men that they need to basically fan out. They need to get this done before more people are endangered. Mm-hmm. And each of the X-Men kind of takes on a role of protecting innocent people from Edinburgh, which are called Edinburgh. What is someone called from
Edinburghians?
Edinburghians?
No, I'm just.
I know someone from Glasgow.
I think just Scottish. I think it's called Scottish.
Just someone from Edinburgh is called Scottish. Yes. Yes. Yeah, you're from Glasgow. You're a Glaswegian.
That's right. That's right.
But what's someone from Edinburgh? I do not know. You're going to look it up while we continue. So Phoenix goes and rescues this dude and loses his hat.
Yep.
And she's talking about her power. His power is getting stronger, and soon he'll be unbeatable. I'm not sure why they think that. Like, what's to make us think he will?
Right. There's no lead up to that except you're right.
But it's just to raise stakes for the reader. A Nightcrawler rescues a young woman, and she says he's blue, and he's like, "Yep." Yeah. There you go.
And so this is what I wanted to bring up. So it's like, you notice Nightcrawler's the name, swashbuckling's the game, agility is my specialty. But but there you go. There's the swashbuckling thing too, which I think again that becomes much more of a playful kind of characteristic. I mean, but he's actually verbalizing it, which is funny because it becomes more part of his personality. Yeah.
And it comes into like full swing in his limited series in the mid 80s.
He's where
he goes to an alternate dimension and goes like on a pirate ship.
Ooh.
And on the cover, he's like in the alcohol. Sorry. What would you call all the rigging? Like, would you just say rigging?
Yeah, rigging.
He's up in the ropes and then the rigging in a pirate
up
ship.
by the crow's nest up there.
Holding a saber, like ready to go.
Classic.
With a big on his face. Errol Flynn.
Errol Flynn. Right. That's been the big touch point, Errol Flynn.
Yes. And Dave Cochran, by the way, the man, comes back and does penciling duties on that. So it's kind of neat for Cochran to come back and work on that character. I should track down those books again.
Yeah, that's cool. I looked at that.
Yeah. Really neat here. Storm is encountering citizens that
bees!
are being attacked by bees. And she says, if I do not act at once, these people will suffer an terrible agonizing death at the hands of the bees.
Bees!
That is a lot of bees.
But she's great.
Says it's a good miniseries. I will track it down.
Okay.
I have months. And eventually we'll have... because the show is never ending and there are all these series we need to get to. As we hit the mid-'80s, there are so many spin-offs that we'll have to cover all of them at some point.
But this is what I love about this sequence of Storm. Is she's like, I don't want to hurt the bees more than I have to.
Right.
Damn right, Storm. God, we have issues with pollination already around the world, Storm, so don't kill the bees.
Yeah, she's like, it's not... You don't want to hurt the bees any more than you have to. She says... They should not have to pay the price for their creator's madness.
Yeah. Right.
And then, of course, Claremont goes on to name a character that doesn't need to be named. Mike!
That's Mike.
He should have said, it's a miracle, Janice. But he doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would have been... I would have preferred, truthfully, in the rewrite, that we give them both very Scottish names.
Right. Like Angus...
Yes, but we already have Angus McWhirter.
Oh, right. We're at McWhirter. Okay.
You need to Seamus.
What could we call him?
Or whoever.
Yeah.
You can make up a couple of...
Edith.
Okay.
Maybe. Okay. And no, I'd say that's Irish. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Moving on.
You
know what I'm saying.
And then we get the most fun panel, which Wolverine, watch it, Granny.
Yeah, he's pretty intense, but it's his thought that really gets us back into the story. So we have each of the X-Men having their own single panel or a couple panels describing how they're protecting people. But Wolverine says, I'm fighting it, but I'm starting to become unglued inside, just like when Proteus zapped me this morning. And this is from, of course, the last issue. Thanks, Roger Stern. When Proteus screws up reality, it drives my senses crazy. And then my claws and strength, none of them do any good. Huh? The ground's rising up. So he's McGruff. Or McGruff could be a character. Yeah, is Wolverine McGruff when he's in Scotland? Because he's pretty gruff. His dialogue or his thought balloon there is a paste up. It's not actually the original thing that was written in. They've modified that dialogue as well as his thought about Polaris. Okay. Those things are pasted on after the fact. I was scanning through, or not scanning, I was searching through original art for this issue to see if anything interesting came up. And this page was one of the ones where the original art is sort of known and has been put online. And you can see that they're paste ups as opposed to inked right on the board. So maybe that means that they're rewritten in some way. So as he's getting thrown around by the warping landscape, Polaris saves him by the back of the belt. Thank goodness so many X-Men have a belt, or as I call it, butt scruff, that they can be grabbed by from their flying compatriots. Wolverine's poor butt scruff. You have no idea, by the way, how much hair she actually got a hold of when she grabbed at the back of his belt.
Good thing I got that healing factor, Polaris.
He is in so much pain from his...
a bunch of butt hair off me.
Yeah, is there I know that there was a nickname for the trail that goes down a man's stomach.
Yes.
Is there a nickname for the same?
I don't know if I want to Google that. I Google many things in this show. I don't know if I want to do that.
I thought butt scruff was okay. But there can be something more sensual. So he has to tell the reader, she's like, relax, Wolverine, I've got you. It's Polaris using her magnetic powers to fly me to safety. I'm running from a scrap, and for the first time, I'm glad. He's relieved that he doesn't have to fight because he's absolutely traumatized to his core from having to experience the powers of Proteus. And I want to just say she's not really using her magnetic powers to fly him because she could just lift him from his bones.
Right.
She
That
could
would
just
be better.
put a field around him and move him without having to grab his butt scruff, which is
Maybe she wanted
painful.
to.
It's rip. I mean, it's a painful thing.
All right.
And now we get
yeah,
kind of a cool recap.
Yeah.
Like, how did we get here? How do we get in the situation? The X-Men are all sort of in position, protecting people around, and we get to sort of see that there's no rhyme or reason to Proteus's actions. If a whim strikes him, he indulges it. He waited half his life for this moment, and he means to enjoy himself. And we have to kind of remember this guy was in a jail cell, essentially, restraining him.
Right. This is the thing that becomes clear from this, feedback, this recap is, they have the fight with Magneto. It damages his cell, dampeners, whatever it is.
Sure.
And he starts wasting away because he hasn't actually got a protective grid anymore. So there's actually a part of this story, I mean, at least certainly in the flashback sequence, where wow, you've got some empathy for him because they've locked him in here, fine, but they've locked him in here. He's contained and he's being kept alive, but they literally damage the controls and no one knows. So he's left to kind of suffer and decay on his own.
Maybe if you're gonna lock up mutants in your lab, maybe have people monitoring each person.
It's too many.
Yeah. This is why we can't have superpowered prisons with one person at the helm. It's not okay. I vote against that. It's kind of neat to think. I mean, this issue they fight, I believe it's X-Men 104. Oh, it says right there. Gee, sorry, dude. X-Men 104. Yeah, my recollection's amazing. It's written right there. In my classic X-Men version, it says in classic X-Men 10. But anyway, so they've been building this for 24 issues.
Yeah.
Like the seed was planted back then, 24 issues ago. That's more than 2 years in this case. Because remember, they were bi-monthly for a while.
Of course.
So in a normal comic book, 24 issues would be 2 years. So that's more than 2 years, probably 2.5 or more. Which is incredible that they had it that far back. Mm-hmm. I love, again, Wolverine's. Do you see what part is shorting out the circuits that's keeping him prisoner?
His butt scruff?
It's butt scruff. Yeah. Unbelievable. It's a recurring theme in this story. His name is Butt Scruff McGruff. Good, Magneto pose walking away triumphantly and then that creepy decaying body.
Yeah, like Swamp Thing-esque kind of.
Yeah, I'm thinking something more from Stranger Things. Have you watched season 4 yet?
I haven't seen it yet, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's sort of all over some of the promo images.
Yeah.
I would like to talk about Stranger Things with somebody. I'm only 4 episodes into the new season, but it's I'm having thoughts that, of course, I feel the need to share. One of my beefs with Claremont and who is the letterer in this one? I do not like when we see this happen in our X-Men comics.
Okay.
It is Tom Orzechowski, who is, of course, an amazing letterer. Don't get me wrong. But I don't like this as technique. That on panels 5 and 6, I do not like that narration box joining the two panels so evenly. I don't like that straight line between them.
Right.
I like it askew so that the boxes still feel separate in their design, unless you're going to echo this somewhere else on the page. Unless, let's say, panels 7 and 8 do the exact same thing but in reverse, where the narration box goes over the top. I find it's just awkward. Anyway, but it is a lot of text to get through. So Angus McWhirter,
poor Angus,
the grumpy boat-faring, I guess loosely neighbor. He's got a grudge against sort of the X-Men and whatnot. And he comes, on land to cause problems, and he gets killed.
And in
so his
turn,
body's the power.
he's got problem caused to him.
Right. And that gold tooth is what Moira finds in that bottom open, near somewhat open panel. So she finds his gold tooth. And right away heads to the pawn shop to sell it.
Yeah. She's like, this will fund my next year of research.
Yes. And she finds the completely decayed, mummified
that's gross,
body of
man.
her son.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
it's amazing. Like, also thinking about the drawing reference for that, like, what do you go look at to figure out how to draw the interior side of a pelvic bone that is mummified?
Right. And
That's
also,
great.
and if Angus, doesn't show up, like that's Proteus's future right there.
Yes, he'll die.
Which is, like that's pretty gruesome.
Totally. David, how are you, man? It's so ridiculous that his grudge against the X-Men is literally because they stole his boat. We don't know.
Look, David, have you ever had a boat?
we don't know what bond that man has with that boat. I mean, that boat, it means the world to him.
That boat may have been through some things.
As Homer Simpson once said, teacher, mother, secret lover.
Right?
So that boat might mean a lot.
Just on the open sea, me in the boat.
A judgment-free zone between a man and his boat. Right. So we sort of get the recap, and then, in honor of Jason Lowe, who I don't believe is here yet, we get a Jamie Madrox panel where
we do.
Proteus takes over one of Jamie Madrox's multiple men. Did you see Jason's posts today, by the way?
No.
On Instagram? They're really funny. He is on a podcast and talking about his X-Men project. And he posted a video of himself doing these dances that are really funny. You're getting some boat trouble here, Chris. David says, we had a family sailboat growing up. My dad would definitely accidentally release a mutant psychic force, had something happen to it.
See, your dad knows.
Yes. So we all have learned something here today. And then we get this neat panel. I love floating head panels, by the way.
Yeah.
Where we see the various bodies that Proteus has, or Kevin, has inhabited on his way to reaching his father, Joe, including Madrox and a cop and the young woman he met as a
name. She was named, but we forget her name.
Flat Tire Sally, I think, was her name. And again, these colors, like that magenta, action lines and Kirby Power, those are not done in ink, right? That's just probably done in a little bit of pencil so that the colorist knows to put down fields of color there without ink reference. No holding line, which is a neat technique. It really works. Please, you're my son. I had to just move us along. Sorry.
Yeah, of course. No.
Not quite, Moira. Not anymore. I have all my father's memories now. And suddenly, Moira screams as her flesh and bone flow like mercury, changing at Proteus's will. And what does he turn her into? I have no idea, but it's nightmare fuel.
Yeah, I love, by the way, that it's I have all my father's memories now, including the one where he wanted to turn you into an elephant thing.
Yes. You fought father. Eventually left him. He didn't like that. You won't do the same to me. You're mind, body, and soul. Accept that reality, Moira. You won't like the alternative. So it's hard to stay in that anyway. It's creepy that he, when he gets in his dad's body, he even hates his mother even more.
Yeah.
Joe has been harboring some dark. Both these guys are just haters. They're
pieces of work.
Yes. This is a great burn drawing, by the way, of Proteus in that bottom panel. Really, the menace is coming through and reminds me of other very, very strong cartoonists.
Oh, yeah.
In a good way. Neat crowd shot, right? Everyone running away, the X-Men going the other.
Very, very cool.
I like that.
Cyclops, everything around us has suddenly snapped back to normal. What does it mean?
KGB.
KGB here?
I'm not sure, Colossus. Maybe Proteus's power is only good against one target at a time. Colossus, Banshee, give me a hand. We've got to make sure that no one gets hurt in this panic.
What about Moira? Saint Cyclops, if Proteus has stopped Zap in Edinburgh, it's only because he's turned his power against her.
Banshee, wait.
I'm tired of waiting. She's the woman I love, curse you, and you're prepared to let her die.
I hope it doesn't come to that. But to stop Proteus, I'll sacrifice her life, my life, your life, especially your life, every X-Men's life, if I have to.
You cold-blooded.
Look, Proteus is the deadliest menace we've ever faced. He's a killer, pure and simple. Humanity means no more to him than cows do to us. We're his food. And then I hate a cow so much. Sorry. Either the X-Men stop him, Sean, or no one does. Because, of course, there are no other superheroes in the world. By the time the authorities react, he'll be too powerful to beat.
Oh, you're right, I know. But if Moira dies, God grant I die with her. You talk as if you've a plan, boyo.
I do. Proteus has two weaknesses: metal and women. Metal
and the Dutch.
And the Dutch. And his constant need for fresh host bodies. We've got to make him burn out his present body while denying him an opportunity to possess anyone else. I love it. Ooh. Acting as a psychic switchboard, Phoenix puts Cyclops in telepathic contact with the rest of the team, finally. He tells each what he or she must do. Storm leads the attack. I love this aspect of the X-Men. I loved as a kid that the characters could work in unison when they communicate well. Like, just if they could just stop and connect with each other, they can come up with the best plan. And I love when they would work together. And I guess it was the A-Team fan in me, because
it's very cool.
Love it when you get it.
Yeah.
And really cool effect on the characters in the mist, or in
the pea soup.
What does she call it? Her pea soup fog.
Soup fog.
Really, really neat. And again, this is like pre-digital era, obviously, but it's incredibly effective technique to avoid using black line. It looks to me from this, it's like stippling. It very well might be. Maybe it's a screen tone, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is just Austin going in and stippling everything. Right. It just looks really cool in this edition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so she conjures up a pea soup fog,
so
giving
that
Nightcrawler or Wolverine an opportunity to help Moira get away. And then Proteus responds, "Nice try, witch, but you waited too long to strike. I have a psychic fix on you now, and that's really all I need." And then her unstable molecules of her cloak become even more unstable and become an amber, almost chrysalis around her. Like they encase her. And although we can see her clearly, she cannot breathe nor move.
No.
And Wolverine must act. And we know that he's been super struggling. Because when you have superpowers, when you struggle, it's a super struggle. He's been really struggling with having to take action while managing his emotional response to interacting with Proteus. To me, my ex-pals. Jason Lowe, how are you, sir? I really enjoyed your Instagram post today. And if I could get posts of Jason Lowe dancing every day, it would make my life a better life. So you should either start a second account or just continue to post dancing, because it was great. It had me laughing with joy, and not laughing at, but just laughing with pleasure. If that hunk of crystal is as solid as it looks, she'll suffocate in seconds. But if I try to save her, I'll be leaving myself wide open to Proteus. Just thinking about it turns my guts to ice. I can't let her die. Hang on, babe. These adamantium claws of mine will cut through anything. Oh, I'll get you out, I swear it. And this panel really reminds me of Wolverine hitting Sauron.
Oh yeah.
Or no, one of the other flying beasts in the eye as he like flies up from a fastball special. At Jason Lowe busts some moves. Bust some moves.
Jason Lowe bust some moves.
Oh, bust some moves. This is like a great one. I wish that was a real account. Or is it? Thank you.
It's been created already.
Jason Lowe bust some moves. Nice. So yeah, he cuts out Aurora from her prison. Aurora, he says. Was I in time? Her skin's ice cold. I can't tell if she's breathing. Shame on you, Wolverine. Oh my god, I just got a follow from Jason Lowe bust some moves. On my Instagram. Wow, that was fast. Great. So glad that account exists. I'll follow you back.
It's a bot.
When the show ends, I will follow you back. You should know better than to turn your back on someone who's sworn to kill. Oh, my shoulder.
Kill your shoulder.
My accent just disappeared. I can't say shoulder. There you go. Yeah, he gets hit by a badam.
Yeah.
Whatever makes a badam. Only one kind of gun makes a badam.
The gun that Misty Knight lent to Banshee the last time.
Yes. And he says,
I'm doing what I have to do, Psych. I'm not standing by while my friends are being murdered. Not what I can help.
Just so you know, again, loyal viewers out there, or if you're new, Banshee has exhausted his powers several issues ago in a battle against Moses Magnum to save the entire island archipelago of Japan and potentially the whole world by extension. And he put himself even into a state of comatose by using his powers to such a degree, and they have not yet recovered. So he's on this mission to save the woman he loves, and he's willing to use firearms or any means necessary to do so. So that's why he's not flying around or using his sonic scream or being in costume. There you go. Fool! You should have finished me with your first shot. I guarantee you won't live to try a second one.
Yeah, considering Banshee used to work for Interpol, and then he misses them like pretty
You know what?
It's
the distance between the inside of the shoulder and the heart is like, I'm measuring it right now. It's 7.3 inches, 7 inches and 3/8. Give the guy a break, right? This is a tough situation.
I guess I can give him a break.
Okay.
Glory! He's opened a pit beneath me feet, and with me sonic powers gone due to injuries suffered in X-Men 119, I can't fly to safety.
Before that thought is complete, Banshee is falling, and the moment he drops below ground level, Proteus closes the pit behind him. Yeah, that is nasty.
I wrote that this is some dark. That's dark stuff. Like,
yeah, that is a nightmare.
That's a whole nother level, like of dispatching one of your enemies, where you will put them in a pit and close it so they suffocate, and your team will watch that happen.
Yeah,
that's like holy.
I know that, Badam. Arcade. I also just to comment on Terry Austin's rendering here on that panel, the amount of work he goes into drawing those sort of concentric circles, these little tiny, like kind of hatching concentric circles to create the ground that is closing up is phenomenal. Like you can really feel the texture of the earth below Cyclops. And this bird's eye view is not an easy way to draw both Colossus and Cyclops. Like it's very effective. Yeah, great drawing. And Cyclops thinks Proteus is taunting us. He thinks there's no way we can rescue Banshee. Well, he's in for a surprise. At full strength, Cyclops' awesome optic blasts hammer at the ground, gouging a pathway through the rock to Banshee. Nightcrawler, get down there and get him out.
On my way, Cyclops.
Then, gripping the vertical wall with his remarkable fingers and toes, Nightcrawler races down to find...
He's unconscious, probably in shock, and no wonder. For a few seconds, Sean was buried alive. I better get the move on before Proteus thinks up an even nastier fate for me. Funny, the pit didn't seem this deep on the way in.
Oh my god. Nightcrawler has gone barely halfway when Proteus finally retaliates. There's no warning. Suddenly, his world turns topsy-turvy, living rock and earth packing itself in tight around him and Banshee, entombing them. His reaction is born as much of panic and desperation as rational thought. After a quick, heartfelt prayer, bamf, Nightcrawler teleports straight up as far as he can go, taking Banshee with him. The strain almost kills them both.
Feel torn apart inside. So high off ground, can't see any way to break far. Was some kind of energy field suspending us in mid-air.
This is where it would have been really helpful to have that psychic link be a little bit more effective and fluid, so he knows, what's happening.
That'd be nice.
This is getting to be a habit. Gently, Polaris. They look in pretty rough shape. Banshee's out cold. I think he'll be all right. Thank heaven. Nightcrawler, Kurt, are you...
Alive, mein Frau, but not well.
Rest easy, pal. You've earned it. Sweet dreams, and I'll see you in the morning.
You're out of this comic. You're out of this comic, pal.
Here's the hot cocoa.
Yeah.
From last issue.
Banshee, damn it. He's unconscious. Banshee's hot cocoa solves all problems.
From last issue, Banshee served up hot cocoa to people after they had their encounter with Proteus, and it was like the wrong moment. They really had some saving to go do. Maybe they wouldn't be in this problem right now if they didn't stop and have a campfire. And yeah, he made everybody cocoa. It was beautiful. Good moment.
Aurora, you should not be on your feet.
Do you want to read her as well?
Sure. So long as I'm able to help Peter, I will.
Thanks, Storm.
That's what I got.
Almost right off the bat, we're down 2 X-Men, Scotty, and Proteus seems as strong as ever.
By the way, this is the first we've seen Havoc in about a comic and a half.
And he is so powerful, too. It would be really great. Just shoot at that guy all the time.
Damn it, Alex, where'd you come from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Storm says...
No one said this would be easy, Havoc.
And no one guaranteed we'd win either, little brother. And don't call me Scotty. But we have to try. I sent Phoenix on ahead. Let's get after her. Have you been to Edinburgh, by the way?
I have not been there. Have you been to Edinburgh?
I have. In 1986, I was in Edinburgh, and I was at this very spot.
Wow.
Yes. I was hovering in midair, just below the amazing castle on top of the mount there.
Yeah, sure.
Edinburgh Castle, right near Camera Obscura, for those who know the city and its tourist attractions well in the mid '80s.
I know the band,
but this vista, the view of the castle from below, is something that is ingrained in my memory from that afternoon in Edinburgh, where of course I had a traditional Scottish dish known as grumpy 11-year-old needs a pizza.
Oh, yeah, sure. That's a classic Scottish dish.
Yes. It takes Havoc a while to put on that headpiece. It just does not translate.
It's just not getting on right, Scotty.
Yes. I don't know the band, but if Jason and you both dig it, then...
The band Camera Obscura?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Trevor has also been to Edinburgh.
I'll send you some stuff, man. It's a Scottish kind of twee pop, kind of jangle stuff. It's good.
You know I'm into that.
I know you are.
So here we go. We got to get these X-Men fighting again. The X-Men have succeeded in driving Proteus out of Edinburgh's crowded streets. Thank goodness. I hate when they always fight in crowds. And into the now evacuated West Prince's Street Gardens at the base of Castle Rock. The rogue mutant is headed for Edinburgh Castle atop the rock. He doesn't make it. A psychic mind blast stops him at the very foot of the cliff. Yeah, with a distinctive Phoenix power effect around his head.
Yeah.
Jason saw them live in London, UK.
Ooh.
You are a well-traveled man, Jason.
That's super cool. I also, Jason, I mean, not that we're getting too off topic here, but I saw you. You saw the Roots. It was the Roots in Montreal, man. That looked pretty amazing. Based on your Instagram feed, it looked pretty cool. So
wow, yeah. This is when was that?
I don't know, a couple days ago, maybe on the weekend.
Oh, was Jason at the Montreal Comic Con?
Don't know.
Okay, but let's assume he was. And that would make sense, right?
Hey, the Roots, Montreal look cool.
Very cool.
Very cool.
So Phoenix finally makes her foray into like the battle portion of this, which is given like the fact that
she sounds like member. I believe you owe me a rematch for that ambush on Muir Island, Proteus. I'm here to collect with interest.
She looks for all the world. Am I reading that right? She looks for all the world like some great bird of prey. That doesn't really match the drawing. As beautiful and terrifying as a star. Doesn't look like that either.
No.
I do remember now that the Jazz Fest reference. I remember seeing a post about that, and it's just, I guess, so many posts and so little time. But Phoenix has entered, and let's see what happens. Ooh, neat. My eye immediately like drops below because I see that bottom awesome panel. But we'll get there. Yeah. And this is another time we see Byrne do this effect where like he doesn't draw a lot on the interior of the characters, just those sort of very thin lines on the outline, and it really works to like make them think that, like, to make the reader read them as being illuminated, that we're not getting those ink spotting or black spotting of like pools of black ink in sections to create shadow and depth and weight, just empty form, but they look really good anyway. Proteus hardly has time before she attacks.
Jean, what are you doing?
Again and again, Phoenix lashes out with a ferocity that shocks Moira, her power a symphony within her, a song of joy that builds too quickly in its crescendo. That gives me headaches, by the way.
He's down, but he's not giving up.
Way to go, Jeannie. In a rough house, babe, you're my kind of gal. Uh-oh, my guts are churning. Proteus must be fighting back. Like he's this guy's so scarred from it. I feel terrible for him.
You feel terrible for
Wolverine. Yeah, he's really messed up.
He is.
Imagine being dead and buried. Then imagine how you'd feel, assuming you could feel, after a year in the ground. That's how Proteus makes Phoenix feel. Her scream is indescribable, so much so that there is no lettering to, no onomatopoeia for her scream. Leave her alone. I love that lady, bub. Past tense.
Past tense. I know that too, yeah.
And I'll see you dead before I let you hurt her again.
That's it.
He just tears.
Just tears.
And this is what I've been looking for, from the character, right?
Sure.
This is the first time we've seen him tear through flesh of a character more than just a little scratch on Magneto or another character. Like he's nearly gutted this guy, but also the lettering. I wanted this for a long time, where we get like panel border breaking,
totally.
Sound effect, like going with kind of the flow of the action, dramatic and emotional lettering. I was really excited to see this, and no surprise that the colorist goes with reds, right? Yeah. It's that rage stuff. Really good. Also,
I mean, and it's funny because as much as that panel is like, it's so striking. That middle panel with the skeleton, Jean being attacked by Proteus is with the coloring is like, wow.
Yeah,
that really stands out too. Yeah, absolutely.
It's very dramatic. And then we get like a moment to catch our breath before Terry Austin has to go and get his circle templates. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Don't ever write this for somebody. That scream. Jean's down, hurt. Oh, I can't think about her now. I don't dare, or I'll crack wide open. I have to focus on the job at hand. Nothing else. Wolverine, get Moira away from her. Now, mister.
Take a shot.
Everybody take a shot. Man, you weren't kidding about us being expendables, were you? Jean's zapped bad, psych. And you ain't even batting an eyelash.
Short stuff, you were so off base about my brother. It's pathetic. But this isn't the time for debate.
Hit him, Havoc, with everything you've got. Incredible. PROTEUS survived Wolverine's attack, and now he's standing up to the combined power of my optic beams and Alex's cosmic energy bolts.
What'll it take to stop this guy? And so this is what's referred to in the Summers family as a summer sandwich. Let's go throw that out there.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's a summer sandwich. Yeah. Just depends on what goes in the sandwich. But
geometry at work, says Jason. And David kindly reminds us it's the concentric circle tool in Clip Studio Paint. Yeah, this is so easy to do nowadays. I just imagine, finding the centers. Like if you have one, you mark the center once and you do these concentric circles around it. That's not so bad. But there are these, let's see here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on that first panel, which is the second panel on the page. There's 7 different circles that you have to then measure out and create the various circles from it. And then the other one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's just it's the not fun part of drawing comics, but much easier digitally, of course. Really cool for them to make the summer sandwich.
Summer sandwich.
And if you sounds like Psyche and his brother ain't pulling their punches. Sure wish I was there to lend him a hand. Meanwhile, I'm climbing the fuck out of here.
Yeah. It's not over yet, Wolverine.
Every time you do her accent, it's you're so sweet with the delivery. There's no sense of what situation she's in. She's just talking sweet about something.
Sweet Wolverine.
There's no context to like the horror of having to hold on to this Canadian guy's neck as opposed to his butt scruff as he climbs up the mountainside or the cliffside there. She's serene and going for it.
I'll put on the kettle. Put on the kettle.
Do you want to keep reading her part there?
Sure. I've hoped and prayed there'll be another way, but I know now it won't really be over until my boy is dead.
Exactly. There you go. Now we get some context.
There you go.
It must be terrible for her to realize it. Like, they got to kill her son, but she has kept him in a cell for basically his whole life. So, there is some sort of sentimentality about who he is, but she's not like daily living the practice of taking care of him. She didn't even know he was dying.
Right.
His corpse was like, that his the entity was dying and had used up his body. She was clueless about it until she found that gold tooth. Yes, Mrs. Doubtfire, that's a very good point.
Thank you.
But
I'll take that every day of the week.
No, he's changing his form. Our beams are hitting each other.
Oh, Scotty!
That hurts. Good thing my body's able to metabolize most of the power of Alex's bolts. By the way, they call it this cosmic energy.
Yeah.
Like, if it's coming from Alex, how is it cosmic? He is earthly. He's an earthly being. It's the same power that Cyclops has, just in a different form,
And so, by the way, is this in terms of this little explanation here where they can kind of, they can absorb each other's power, or they're, because I guess they're brothers and family, that, that doesn't work the same effect on each other. Is this something that's like, this is the first I've heard of it when it comes, it's handy, wow. I suppose. But
I'm pretty sure it came up in the previous issues where they fought it with Eric the Red.
Okay.
Hello there. Do you know, Kevin, from Toying Around, who George Lucas wanted originally to play Obi-Wan Kenobi? I'm interested to know if you know this because it's fascinating, given cinema history and international cinema and cinephiles and their taste and the world we live in today. So I'm curious enough if you know this. I'm going to assume you don't, but I'm not going to tell you. I want you to look it up. Making work for my friend Kevin, who, by the way, I don't know if you know this, Chris. Kevin here was named after the
Proteus from the X-Men animation.
X-Men animated series. That was the inspiration for him. Black Tom and Banshee are cousins, and their powers don't hurt one another for whatever reason, whatever bonkers reason.
Oh yeah,
this is true. So it seems to be an interesting thing.
Mm-hmm.
Benny Hill as Obi-Wan Kenobi? No. Telly Savalas? No. Do better research, the two of you.
I'd like to see Benny Hill as Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I don't think you would.
Gorilla suit. No, okay.
It changes the entire theme of the Force theme when
it improves it.
There's a lot of boob squeezing or whatever happened with Benny Hill. Okay.
Yeah.
So Proteus is going after Moira. Good luck, Wolverine. You're gonna need it. So we're getting like what might be the final showdown, especially for us, as we are like these, 80s and 90s kids who know Wolverine as like the hero, savior, and badass of the team. It looks like it's going to be a showdown to these two guys, Proteus versus Wolverine and his metal claws. I feel like that's where we're going.
Right.
Curse those mutants. I underestimated their power and skill. This body won't last much longer. And without a physical host, I'll quickly discorporate, cease to exist.
Which means cease to exist.
But I got no need to worry. The ideal replacement is close at hand.
Wolverine, what's wrong?
Proteus is doing something screwy to gravity. He's coming like a flaming rocket from Rocket Richard, who's a hockey player, because I'm Canadian.
Hey.
And I can barely move. You have something that belongs to me, little man. I want it back.
Wolverine!
Holy!
Cyclops, what can we do?
KGB. Even Wolverine can't survive that big a fall because I don't understand his anatomy yet. Careful. Ow! My butt scruff. It's working. My pulsed optic blasts are slowing him down. Pew, pew, pew.
I love that idea where he's using his optic blast to basically gently cushion him down to earth by shooting him in the butt.
He's had a rough issue for his butt scruff. Eddie Murphy, good call on that one. That would have been
Eddie Murphy,
a good, reference to Eddie Murphy as Robin in the first Batman movie. Like that was a commonly spoken rumor. So that was
like the first Tim Burton movie.
Yes. There was a lot of like chat once. Michael Keaton was cast. It was like, okay, Eddie Murphy is Robin. But of course, and then I don't want to talk about how that plays out, but they do cast Robin for Batman Returns, and they never use him.
No.
And they actually pay an actor for the part. True story.
Didn't know that.
Yes, and there's a kind of connection, but we'll get to that another time on our other show.
That actor was Matlock.
The actor was Matlock is not. Jason Lowe is spoiling it. Marlon Wayans was planned to be Robin. Marlon Wayans wasn't just planned; he was paid out.
Interesting.
Yes, it's crazy.
That is crazy.
Wolverine will never survive that fall. Thanks for getting us back on track, David.
Thanks, David.
I'll repeatedly hit him with the force of an oncoming train to break his fall. Yes, that's what you do. That's how it works. Colossus, catch him. That stunt normally would have killed a normal. Sorry, that stunt would have killed a normal person. But I figured Wolverine's adamantium skeleton would survive the hard knocks. I'm glad I was right. Colossus, get to that castle. You know what to do, Peter. Good luck.
I will not fail, Cyclops.
Oh, man. I'm going to be black and blue, like, forever. That is not true, Wolverine. You heal super fast.
Super fast.
But I love the idea that his healing factor was not as potent
Right.
as it has become in the 21st century. And I love the foliage that Byrne and Austin are able to create. It looks great. All right, and now back to Moira being left alone with her completely decayed husband / son, which is really creepy on multiple levels.
It's my turn now, is it? And after me, who next? Death after endless death without thought or care or mercy, till there's no one left alive on earth save you. Is that what the future holds?
That's the only other gear you got with her. I love it. Perhaps you should have drowned me at birth, eh, Moira? Like an unwanted pet? Oh, you know, you love me. You tried to save me. Stupid cow. I never wanted your salvation. As a child, I knew I had the power. I could hardly wait for my first chance to use it. Look at this sweater. It's completely shit now. Terry Austin is a great inker, drawing this fabric in a terrible way. An act of hatred and violence created me, Mother, shaped me into what I am today. Out of that creation will come humanity's destruction, and of course, your own.
So, I wanted on this one. I wanted to say this. So, are we to believe? So, in the last issue, when she confronts Joe and says you have a son, she says, you didn't just put me in the hospital, you added something to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you gave me something else, right? Are we to assume that he raped her? Because he says an act of hatred and violence. She goes in the hospital and she's pregnant.
Hold on. Oh, shit. Well, now that you say that, I mean, how can we not read that?
Well, I don't know. Like, it stood out to me so much.
Oh, I'm going back now just to read that line where she's talking to him. But
right, you sent me to the hospital, but I'm
actually there right now. So he says, "You're mine." I'm going to read this without the accents, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
You're mine, Moira. You swore before God to love, honor, and cherish me to death. I intend to hold you to that. And she says, "I'm here to give you a warning, Joe. When we said our quote fond farewells in New York all those years ago, you didn't just put me in the hospital for a week. You left me pregnant.
Right.
You have a son, Joseph McTaggart." So I think he beat her and raped her.
Right. I think, right.
Like, they go to part ways because, he's a terrible person.
Yeah.
And he beats and rapes her.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Anyway.
Oh my God. That adds a horrible level to it. I think that is definitely definitely an appropriate way to read what Claremont has laid out before us.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's all I have to say with that. That's horrible, and I read it the same way now. I never picked up on that as a kid, of course.
Oh, sure.
And they definitely didn't go anywhere near that in the cartoon. But that adds to the horror and the emotions of this episode.
Yeah, and her feelings towards her son, and all of it.
And then you think about Marvel putting that out there and sneaking that one by the comics code as just like it's an implication, right? So they imply it. Most readers are not really able to infer, and they're kind of counting on that, I guess. But it lends a little bit more of that, like a little more weight to that argument where adults will say, like, no, there's more to comics than you think. And then of course there's more to, I should say more to superhero comics, because that's really what this genre is not the broader medium, but this particular branch of the publication world. Superhero comics can use these extreme hyper, kind of sci-fi and fantasy narratives to discuss heavier topics and um, add visible horror and plot horror to horrible situations. Yeah, that's pretty heavy stuff. And I mean, now back just to the art. Like, look at these drawings of Joe, like of Proteus, just incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So here we
Yeah.
go. Colossus makes his appearance.
You will destroy no one, monster.
What? As casually as someone else might throw a baseball. By the way, that's not how you throw a baseball. The youngest
In
X-Men.
Russia, baseball throws you.
I love that he's the youngest X-Men, by the way.
Yeah.
He hurls Proteus the length of the battlement, sending him crashing headlong into an ancient stone wall. Colossus meant the impact to stun Proteus to unconsciousness. Instead, it shatters his decaying host body into powder. Wow.
By the white wolf.
Which is, by the way, Russian for holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is Proteus' true form. I must take care. Cyclops said that in this state, Proteus will be both the most vulnerable and the most dangerous. He will be desperate to steal another host body. I must not let him.
Suddenly, the air around Colossus explodes into flame, the fire hounding him like a thing alive. At the same time, Proteus attacks on a psychic level.
Oh no, Peter, no!
And this is like a terrible thought that Proteus is going to get hold of this guy, right? If this will, I mean, the amount of physical power that Colossus presents is vast, calling forth memories that have haunted Peter Rasputin since childhood. Of fateful day, his brother Mikhail, a Russian cosmonaut, died in a launchpad fire. Proteus seeks to hurt Peter as much in as many ways as possible before he finally kills him, as he will kill all the X-Men.
I hear you, Butcher, inside my mind, laughing. You enjoy causing pain, death. Before I met you, I never understood evil. You are evil, Proteus. But you have made a fatal mistake. You toyed with me when you should have slain me, allowing me time to change from Peter Rasputin to Colossus. That mistake will be your last.
Jack Kirby, right? These three panels in the middle tier of this page, where it's Ben Grimm turning into the Thing.
Right.
You know, it's what it's Steve Rogers turning into initially Captain America, like whatever character we're going with here, Bruce Banner into the Hulk. It's like he is the source of inspiration for like this way of showing transformation, and it's gorgeous. And that Colossus transformation from like the light on the inside of him crackling through like the black of him in that middle panel, that is awesome. And like the colorist adding just that bit of blue to it makes the white that much whiter. Really just a fantastic triptych of panels, and you feel the whole thing coming, right? One tiny comment about the lettering boxes. Okay, so in the third panel in the top tier there, see how that narration box just overlaps outside? I like that style a lot better than making it match with the corners and the boundaries. Like I like when the narration box floats above the art panel as opposed to like fitting within. And I'm just irked always by like the lettering where it bridges these panels together with that straight line across, even with the Colossus transformation. I want like take out 5 words if you can and make it fit within the panel. But that's just like an aesthetic choice where I get to be nitpicky, but I love that transformation. And yeah, that it's a 2-fisted punch, like just throwing both fists, like lunging at this guy. It feels like grabbing. So he's actually okay. So he's not punching. He's tearing it is.
Yeah.
It feels like grabbing a million live wires as Colossus smashes his organic steel fists into the heart of Proteus's energy form. Again, like the line art doesn't have that effect of Proteus. That's someone, that's the colors putting down this color, and then they're like scratching out the sections to make those cool circle effects and the lines. Like it's a really amazing collaboration. And I don't even know how to talk about what comes next. Like how you make that. I wonder if there's like a sketchbook somewhere or like rough sheets where Byrne and or Austin is trying out this effect of like energy being released from a being of pure energy. Like how do you translate onto a comic book page? That is, I would love to see the process to make that thing come to fruition, as well as the practice steps. Like you don't try this for the first time on the board. You try it out a little bit here or there, unless you're again operating at like full confidence and you've done something like it before. It's really, really great. Wow. Maybe you lay down all the black and then put white media over and scratch stuff off. Working in reductive, like in a reverse way. Really cool. And that's only the beginning of his ordeal, as Colossus's dense molecular structure totally disrupts the delicately balanced energy matrices that make up the rogue mutant. In a sense, he short circuits Proteus, scattering every fabric of the villain's being, every scrap of consciousness to the four corners of the earth. The end is instantaneous. Oof. The pyrotechnics lighting up the evening sky for miles. Good Lord. A bunch of old ladies at the print house used to have to cut out the blocks of color by hand for printing. Yes, this is the famous story that like all the major companies use the same print house of old ladies who would cut out the color blocks. And when it would come to things that are these color holds, they would basically have to mark it with a colored pencil and hope that the colorist at the color house would do an accurate job.
Wow.
But they would probably hate them for it. Yeah, they must have gotten that page and had a mass walkout. I would love to actually hear like the behind the scenes of things like that, because that color house is obviously is legendary. But you're expecting them to lay down flat colors for body shapes and such. And these are just another level of like, this is not the job they signed up for, basically, when you see it. And that's one of the things I think that makes this era of X-Men comics so important, is that it elevates what artists, whether it be color artists or ink or pencil or script, it elevates what all artists can think is possible moving forward. If you see this, you're like, oh, this changes the rules as to what we can make in a comic book. Right. Similar to like when you see what Industrial Light and Magic did in Star Wars, it changes what special effects are from that point on. Like you don't see this kind of work before this. This is amazing. Really, really great. Cyclops sees this effect alongside Wolverine from the top of the mount. Metal in any form. And this word is anathema. Is that how you pronounce it?
That's right.
Metal in any form is anathema to Proteus. That's why I was counting on Colossus to finish the job. The rest of us started. It looks like he's done just that. But at what cost? Petey, don't be dead, big fella. I got few enough sparring partners as it is. Gene, are you strong enough to fly us up there?
I'll give it a try, Scott.
With an ease that surprises her and Cyclops both, considering she could barely stand a few minutes ago, Phoenix reaches out with her telekinetic power, and lifts him, Wolverine, and Havoc up to the cliff face toward the castle ramparts. Peter, Moira, they look okay. Jean, scan the area. Any sign of Proteus?
You could say please once in a while, Cyclops. Only faint residual traces, Scott. You need not worry, Cyclops. Proteus is no more.
Like
my friends. What's that?
Like my clothes.
My clothes are also no more. My friends, I know Proteus was evil, that we all of us did what had to be done. Yet I mourn. Ah, Moira, Moira, I have no words to comfort you. Only my incredible, beautiful strength. Do not hold back your tears, small one. I will not last.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, Petey. I couldn't have aced that sucker better myself.
Thank you, Wolverine, I think.
I
But
love that.
hush, but hush now, little man. Let Moira grieve in peace. I lived on both Cyclops, Joe and my son, but now they're gone. Part of me is glad, and the rest is none. Perhaps a merciful God will pardon me for my part in this tragedy, but I'll not forgive myself. Moira, are you well, darling? Sean?
They embrace with all the passion of lovers half their age.
Oof.
In that embrace, and the love it represents, lies the beginning of a natural process of healing called getting it on. Eventually, it will restore the bloom to her cheeks, the laughter to her voice. When that happens, the X-Men's battle here today can finally, truly be called a victory. Wow. I love Wolverine's knuckle clang on Colossus's shoulder there.
Yeah.
In the house. Yeah, boy.
I will not rest.
It's difficult to
It is difficult.
to stay away from the Borat when you're reading that. Man, is that a great performance of a lifetime. I love the comic book thing where the underwear has to stay on. Of course, you could have gotten away with all of these panels without him having the underwear, and just have Moira covering it up, and that's why she's looking down.
It's
but man, when we just kind of talked about the fact that we interpreted this as her being raped and beaten and raped, it just adds just so much weight to the finality that I could use 5 more pages of her alone just doing something mundane in a house and having a breakdown. Just that the tragedy just will stay with her, the trauma of it will stay with her the rest of her life in some ways that no one will know unless they are with her personally. In those quiet everyday moments, these things don't just go away when the battle is over. They stay with you forever. Yeah, so that's a pretty heavy one, but awesome to see Colossus find the strength as well. He only battles for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 panels of Colossus fighting. But it took everything he had, I guess, and the narration does a lot of that work.
And that's part of that looping back with the storylines where Colossus is doubtful of his powers, his contributions to the team when he's by far clearly the physically strongest. Yeah. But now we see him actually get to just do that cover, right? That cover of "And One Shall Save the Day" or whatever heck that is on the classic X-Men cover. He did. It's exactly what he did.
I think we could say on his journey, he has fully arrived.
Yeah,
he's all the way here. This is peak Colossus in terms of he's now in his prime, and we know that Claremont will have to give him ebbs and flows, to give the character depth and arcs through the rest of his journey. But officially, to me, the Wolverine, the Claremont Byrne era Wolverine is here. The Claremont Byrne era Colossus is here. Nightcrawler, he's here, and Storm. The team, they're not so much in development anymore. They are fully present, and this team is ready to take on the biggest challenges, which is awesome because that's what's coming. Really, really great. I could have again stood a few more pages of Colossus doing what he needed to do, and it would have been, of course, drawn out like pulling taffy if another writer another artist and a higher page count were at the disposal of the creators. That just is not the case. They have to get it done in 17 or so pages. On this case, it says 30, but that's including the ads. Let's maybe put it back to about 22. Yeah, they really had to get to it. So, great issue for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they killed that guy, because it's also funny to me, like, the narrator tells us that his essence was scattered to the four corners of the earth.
Yeah.
Which means it's still there. It's just not in a form.
Yeah, exactly.
But Colossus is like, yes, he's dead. Like, you don't know. You're not reliable. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 pages. That's all it was.
Wow.
It's a lot to wrap up. It's hard to do. So you know what comes next?
Well, that was a great story arc, the PROTEUS story arc.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Issue 129. You know what
No, what happens in 129? What's going
on? All the back issue stuff, all the backup story stuff.
Yeah.
Is coming to fruition now as we. This is the backup. If you can interpret that.
It's a knight and a pawn. So, the white. This is the Hellfire Club stuff, right? The black king knight and the white queen, or however that works.
Yeah, in the backups, Claremont probably guides Ann Nocenti to focus on developing the characters in Hellfire Club to such a degree, and this is just all that S&M gear.
Sure.
It's Wingard and one of the other women who works there. Which character this is?
Is Wingard? Is that the Kevin Bacon character from?
No, actually, that's Sebastian Shaw.
Oh, okay, that's it. I'm wrong.
So we have not met Sebastian Shaw formally in Claremont's run yet.
But he's part of the Hellfire Club?
He is the Black King. I'm spoiling. I don't want to tell you.
Okay. I know parts of it, so okay.
I want it to come up as it comes up.
Okay.
We're going to get some Sebastian Shaw stuff happening. But basically what's happening in this story, it's a White Queen and this Black Pawn against a Black Knight or a Rook. In Jason Wingard.
So it's like just checkmate.
It's a whole game of chess between these two. They're both playing with this other woman as a way to get power, and they are having their mental battles and trying to figure out who is positioned better. Because within the Hellfire Club, it is all about ascending to a higher status and not trusting your peers. But
sounds like fun.
It sounds like a huge headache, but we're starting a Hellfire Club arc, which this is everything. Like, I don't want to tell you what's coming. I know that I have this issue downstairs. Next issue is the first appearance of Kitty Pryde.
Oh, very cool.
So I'm spoiling. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm not going to be here next week. That's okay.
Oh no, dude!
Remember?
I blocked that out. I blocked it out. It's a really great issue. As
it's okay. It's on the DVD-ROM. No worries.
Yeah, you got it. You got to read it.
I'll read it.
It's a monumentally, like, it's a valuable one now. Like, it's I guess they call it a hotkey.
First appearance, right?
Yes, and these Claremont Burn issues have gotten expensive in the last couple of years. More so, they used to be sitting at the maybe $20 to $30 or $20 to $40 price point. Now they're in hundreds. So this one's gotten way out of reach in recent years. David Cutler, I believe, is it his week? I'm looking now on my phone.
I believe it is.
Well, that's exciting, but I got to confirm. Hold on. I don't want to come up looking foolish in front of everybody here. Issue 130 is David Cutler. Next week is 129.
Oh.
Is it what?
No, it says he was looking forward to talking next week. I think he is.
Oh, you know what? I trust you. whoever's on next week with me.
I was basically going to interview you guys for 2 hours. That's a great idea. We got lots to say.
Oh yeah, no, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. So David's on next week. No, it's not a. You're on next week. This is great. It's very
Jason's old man brain is breaking.
I have an Excel spreadsheet and it's like a lot of blank spots with your name in there, and I'm just misreading it while I'm looking, not matching up the rows with the numbers. Very much looking forward to that.
Yeah,
129 is perfect. We're gonna have a great time next week. It is a hugely significant issue for lots of reasons. One being the start of this Hellfire Club arc, which is organically like part of the Dark Phoenix saga. It's right in there. And great art, great story, great new character. Byrne, and Claremont both have a real love for Kitty Pryde. All of the readers who grew up with her, we all think she's just the best. I wish there was an action figure of her in every version. I have Kitty Pryde. She's always nearby. I love this. She's often a model for some Peregrine's action, by the way. The corner box one I just did of what character was it? Pardon me?
The Walking.
The Walking. Well, that's the Walking. It was Dot, I think. It's Dot or Beth. Either way, this character was in the pose, so I was playing with angles, and if not, anyway. Kitty Pryde, hugely important to me as well. So I'm very much looking forward to that next week, including Weezer. Yes, in my garage. Is it in the garage or in my garage?
In the garage.
Should you remember the lyric?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Got posters on my wall. My favorite rock group, Kiss.
But you know the line about?
Yeah, Kitty Pryde. Yeah.
Okay. And not everyone catches it, because if you don't know the character at the time, you wouldn't necessarily catch it. It'll be good times. Reading X-Men 129 by, again, Claremont, Byrne, and Austin. Super good. This was a good time, Chris.
Yeah. David, I'll miss you next week, but hopefully we can get you back and all three of us can be at the same time. For sure. And then at the next big event in Toronto, hopefully we're all there at the same time and we can fist bump. Chat X-Men in person. Talk X-Men.
Practice our accents.
Or not. Let them get worse. Let them get worse.
All right. I think that's all for today. You can find us, of course, at Group of 7 Comics on all the socials, with 7 being the number 7. Please click like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you wouldn't mind sharing it with other similarly minded people who are either fans of X-Men, fans of comics, or would-be fans of X-Men comics, please share with them. We're really grateful to have had you here tonight, including people like Trevor and David and Jason. It's been good to hang with you all. And really, thank you very much. And that would be it. Shout outs to new subscribers, by the way. Alan G, Super Squad 7. Alan's great, by the way. And the Bad Apples of Toronto. the Bad Apples. That was me. I know. That's my band. That's your band. We're at 97 people, subscribers. We want to get to 100. So yeah, help us out if you can. Yeah. Extra shouts to Alan. He's a great guy, a member of the Cartoonist Kayfabe Ringside Seats Facebook group. Super friendly. And cool. If you can get him on a Zoom and get him laughing, you're going to be happy for hours. Anyway, that being said, good night to everyone out there. And we will see you next week for issue 129 with our special guest, David Cutler. Very excited for that. So good night. I'll talk to you.